The ones that they said was never going to make it, the ones that they said he'll be dead by. That's saying if you save just one, you've done your thing. And it takes a village, and I truly believe that you not only do you have to have the empathy and the passion for this, but you also
Foot on his neck, I'm coming in high, I'm coming in quick, got what I got, I'm so content, he calling me big, running up chicks, running up, loving that flex, been on that marathon nail, I run at my pace, they loving the spread, foot on his neck.
So, Ms. Ericka, I appreciate you carving out some time to meet with me. Obviously, we're at the NAWDP conference. You and I have been in a few sessions, and just some of the feedback you got gave to the group was very thoughtful. So I just wanted to connect with you. So I appreciate you. How are you enjoying your time at the conference so far?
Actually, it's great. It's always nice to come and learn new things and meet new people and be able to network and share ideas to take back to our community. So.
I agree with you. Well, tell the folks a little bit about yourself, like where you're based out of, where you're from, about the work that you do, and how you kind of got to where you are.
Okay, so I'm Ericka Wingfield. I am based out of Pittsburgh, PA. Allegheny County is our county, and I work with the juvenile probation. So I work specifically with the program called CIS, Community Intensive Supervision Program, and it's a program where juvenile offenders, instead of going away to placement, if they get into trouble, they actually come to our program, and it's an after-school program. And there they receive all type of restorative practice services to try to get them back on the right track. My specific role is I'm a reintegration specialist, so I work alongside the probation officer to help them get involved and do positive things around workforce development. We also do things around education, so we are a liaison for the schools. So if they are a high school student and school students, we work with the schools to get them enrolled or keep them enrolled and make sure that we advocate for their rights. If they are out of school, then we try to do things around if they need to get a GED or do credit recovery, we'll work on those efforts. Or if they've already graduated and finished, then we'll start working towards post-secondary education, introducing them to trades, and looking at a career path. So along with that, we partner with Goodwill of Southwestern Pennsylvania to do our job readiness and skill training to help them get certified in whatever areas of interest. They also do their move assessment, interest assessments for them, and then we're able to take that and create a plan around education and post-secondary education moving forward. So we have youth anywhere from ages 12 to 21 is when they age out of our program in particular. But they can always come back, even when they are away from our program, to receive the services that we offer.
And that's powerful. I was just talking to you offline. For me personally, my background has been large-scale programming, workforce development. And so only in the last year and a half, I've kind of got sort of the language and some kind of context about juvenile justice system and justice involved youth. So just to know you're really a subject matter expert in that field is enlightening and educational for me. So I'm curious, I want to take a little step back. How did you sort of get into this world of working with justice involved youth? Because it does intersect with the workforce development sort of space, but also education at large. But I'm curious about your particular career journey. How'd you get here?
So in the early 90s, I worked with the summer youth employment program that the city of Pittsburgh actually ran. And so I was one of the program managers to offer that and did that in the city. And I did that for a few years. And then a prevention and intervention program called Youth Places came into the city, and it was brought there, and it just struck me. So I got involved, and we had two arms. We had Youth Places, which was the place where youth could go for after school programming. And then we had Youth Reach, which was the reach part, trying to reach those gang affiliate members to get them out of the streets and come to the places where they can get job readiness training and things of that nature. So I did that work for about 10 years, and I gradually moved up on the scale, different positions and different things. I worked at the YMCA doing all of that similar work, just with different nonprofit agencies. And then just recent, 8 years now, someone approached me about, they had this new initiative with the county courts for a second chance grant. And it was working with these high risk juvenile offenders about giving them a second chance in the community. And they wanted someone who's been doing the work. So I've worked on the CYF side and the community based side. I've never worked in probation until I took this role.
I see.
But it's all linear. It's doing the
Yeah.
same work. It's just with a different target
Sure.
audience. So I just took my background and my skills and adapted it to the audience that we're working with. Of course, there's some different requirements and things, but it's all the same work.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I mean, I think like just hearing your career progression and how you've like strategically, like sort of translated over to like different entities. Like you're talking about on the public service side, like there's government sort of entities, but then community-based sort of entities. And I love to see how the interaction is. I'm curious, like hopefully this ain't too personal, but like you personally, like what's drawing you to do this kind of work? Because nobody told you need to be working with justice involved youth, folks that are in the probation system and things of that nature. Like your unique kind of like calling, if you will, or unique story, like what's drawing you to do this type of work?
So growing up in Pittsburgh, I grew up in the inner city and I attended the YMCA growing up. And I had a mentor through the YMCA. And that's where I went to stay out of trouble, to get my skill sets and develop some skills that I had. That was where I went, where they pushed me to look at possibly going to college. I grew up in the steel mill town of Hazelwood. So a lot of people worked in the steel mill. And my older siblings went into the military. And I said, I don't want that for me. Now, sometimes I look back and say, maybe I should have went into the military for the discipline, right? But I wanted to go to college. And so I said, what did I want to do? I actually studied business and marketing. Came home, couldn't really find a job in that. So I got a job doing the summer youth employment piece, right? And then it was like, hey, this is what I did as a kid. And I had a mentor, so I reached out to my mentor and she said, yeah, you should try it. I think you'll like it and you'll be good at it. Your personality and you have a caring heart. So I kind of like stumbled on it, enjoyed it. It's not even a path I thought about. And I went back and got my master's in community leadership and just tried to, learn different things and how I could write grants and get funding to continue it. Because I really thought, I might just, nonprofits are really big in Southwestern Pennsylvania. I might, create my own nonprofit, but I just kind of like learned from the nonprofits that were there and didn't need to create my own. I just partnered, collaborated, and, just did those type of things. It's easier to get funding when you collaborate instead of working in silos. So that's what I did.
Man, it's so powerful. Like, so one thing that I heard from you in your story is like, you kind of contrasted what your siblings were doing. It's like, all right, I don't know if I'm going the route for the military. In hindsight, you can see the value because of the discipline. But as as a young person, like you see your decision making was based off of like what I don't want to do. And so then going to college, like business is part of every industry, but it sounds like once you finish college, the opportunities didn't align with what you envisioned. But what I really like is that you took the opportunity with the summer youth program, and then that expounded your world of work. It sounds like it just expounded like what you could possibly do, and then the light bulb went off. It's like, all right, let me see how I can sort of enrich my skill set. I think for us, I'm passionate about helping us as not just the young people, but us as adult professionals. Like, all right, how do I get unstuck, or what do I want to do? And hearing you sort of negotiate your interests, but then like there's sometimes walls of like opportunities are not there, but then you still don't stay there. Like you kind of like develop skills to sort of translate to other things. I think that's really, really impressive. And it's really enlightening for other folks that are kind of figuring out what they want to do. So I'm curious for you, like you kind of gave us some gems about grant writing and some skills. For folks that are doing the work that you're doing, what would you say are like kind of a bucket of skills that are really important to be marketable or just to be impactful in the work that you do? What kind of skills would you say are super important?
So most of because the program I currently work for are all male. Right. So you have to have some type of empathy of where they come from and understand why they do some of the things that they do. Right. And so for me, my job is pretty easy because I'm looked at as a mother figure. Some of them may or may not have that at home, or it may come from a single parent home, right? And so I'm able to offer them support and guidance, and just look at them and talk with them, and then share my life experiences with them. I have nephews and nieces and things, and be able to say, well, this is what we do, and this is how we go about it. And but one of the things that you have to do is you have to be able to listen to the youth. We know what we liked growing up, the games and the stories and the things we did. They don't do that anymore, right? So having to understand what is going on right now in the climate. You know, when they played that one video in the group where it says this is the generation Z and this is how they talk, I didn't understand any of that, right? So getting to understand the type of music they like, the conversations they have, and not necessarily trying to be down with them, but be able to understand them. You can actually go back and tell your story and the type of things you did and how it can all gel and come together. But you have to be able to understand where they are, meet them where they're at, and then ask them what it is they want. I know what I wanted, and it was different from my mentor. Some of it was good for me and some of it wasn't. And being able to open and be honest with them and tell them, yes, you could probably do that, but this is the goals. Like when we talk about even like career planning, you can't be an engineer if you don't like math.
It's true.
Right?
That's true.
So being able to identify what do you like, what are some of your strengths, and build upon those, and then you still have to work on your weaknesses, right? And improve in some areas, but you don't have to focus on those. Focus on your strengths and build on those, and being able to understand that and talk to the youth about that. So that's kind of how I go about it. And then I lean on my staff and my partners, because I work with predominantly men, right? So whenever I have a male that's not responding to me, then I'm go have a conversation with them.
That's right.
And they have a conversation with them, and then it changes the trajectory of how we work.
I think that's very strategic. It's funny because when I ask this type of question of like, what are the most important skills that folks might need in their world of work? You just illustrated like what I see most often than not is those soft skills, those interpersonal skills. So you talk heavily about not just being able to talk, you got to be able to listen. You talked about understanding where folks come from. So I think you used the word empathy. And a lot of the language you use are relationship building and sustaining skills. And it goes a long way. And it's funny because like I like to encourage us as adult professionals to sort of put a huge bag of skills in our toolkit so that we can be more marketable or qualified. And I think you, and a part of your story is like you have grant writing skill sets. Obviously, you have coaching and counseling sort of skill set. I know enough about your background, like you're managing programs. So that's a program management and leadership. But I think what I kind of drew from that response is like, it's really these interpersonal relationship building skills that matter to be a force multiplier. So I really appreciate you sharing that. So my last two kind of thoughts or questions is like, nobody forced you to be in this work. You are a huge force multiplier. Like, I feel like part of this is what I would call your calling. And I'm curious to know, like, what are your thoughts about like the word calling? Like, what comes to mind? And when you think about the work that you're doing, do you feel like this is your calling? So kind of a layered question. What do you think about the word calling, and how does that relate to you doing the work that you do?
So it's interesting you said that. So I do think it's my calling, even though it wasn't something I thought I would be doing. It's something that I grew up in, but it wasn't something I thought I would be doing. When you go, I am a Christian, I go to church, and they have you take that test about what do you want to do? What are your spiritual gifts and how do you interact? And one of the things they tried to get me to do is be a greeter, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that. But I can do the background administrative stuff, and like I lead our baptism, right? And I don't do much with it except for on the day of baptism, I'm actually able to pray with and comfort the candidates before they go and do whatever and calm them before they go in. All the other administrators and stuff do all the hard work, right? Leading up for the classes and stuff. I don't have to do any of that. I just sit back, relax, and then the day of, I'm there present, keeping them calm. And so I think those are my callings. This is what God has placed in me. Even though I didn't know that's what He wanted me to do. It's just it was like, do it and see. And if you like it, you're going to continue to do it. And so I do think it's my calling. don't know why he chose me, but I'm glad that he did, because I see the impact. When I go back 20 years and 30 years and I see some of the guys that I work with and they come up to me like, "What's up, E?" or "Miss Ericka, what's going on? I ain't seen you." And this is what I'm doing now. The ones that they said was never going to make it, the ones that they said he'll be dead by the time he's 20 and things are thriving. Do we have some sad stories? Absolutely. I've been to several funerals, you know, but that's saying if you save just one, you've done your thing. And it takes a village, and I truly believe that you not only do you have to have the empathy and the passion for this, but you also have to be willing to have partnerships, because I can't do this by myself. When we talk about workforce development, I have to partner with other agencies to connect them to resources. Many of them are dealing with they might have children, right? They need parenting classes. They may need food. They talk about housing and things like that. Nobody's worried about work if they don't have those other things. So you have to be able to partner with those agencies and know what those agencies are doing, and then partner. And so that all takes, I don't know if it's a skill set that you need to have, but you have to be willing to do that. So
that's powerful. It's funny because like when I hear your story, your calling, I made no assumptions about like what your beliefs are. But like I call myself a Christian, and I don't want to preface like the word calling in a Christianese language, because all like we different backgrounds and so forth. But I do feel strongly that like you are in your calling. Like God has called you in this place to help people that are disenfranchised, that are in our justice system, that want a second chance, third chance, 10, 100 chance, and they need folks like yourself to be present with them. And I love that you illustrated like some of your gifts naturally are administration. And I think sometimes like people like us that get stuck in our careers or our calling, we don't have the language. Like we don't have somebody that at least like, hey sis, like administration is like your thing. I think sometimes we kind of want to prescribe what other people should be doing. So I just really enjoy hearing your story in that context of like you using like some spiritual gifts that's just innately God gave to you, but also you kind of putting some tools in your toolkit to be a force multiplier in the calling area. So shout outs to you. My last question is like so I have a book. I have a couple books. One of them is called Purpose Driven Work and Purpose Driven Coaching, and I'm super big on trying to align purpose in the work that we do. Right. I think that you are living that like as you speak. Right. You have a huge purpose, and I'm sure like you're not like preaching to people every single day, but it's evidence of like the fruits of the spirit when you're operating and doing the work that you're doing with your youth. So I say all of that to say, I'm always curious of like if you were to put your story or if you were to write a book, what would the book be about? What's the title of that book? And who is that book for if you were to make one?
I'm not quite sure of the title. It will probably be something about I made it in spite of. My mother, I come from a teenage mother who she had me at 17 and died 3 months later. So my maternal grandmother raised me as her own. I always called her mom. No one knew she was, well, many people didn't know she was grandma. But she was the foundation. And so it would be for her to say thank you. Because she could have let me go in the system. It was me, and I had an older brother. And she said no way, and she raised us. So my aunts, which were my sisters, my mother's sisters, became my sisters. So I have older sisters and I have a younger sister that's my aunt, right? So when growing up, if we would get into it, she was like, "I'm your aunt, and you're gonna listen to me," right? So it would be something around thank you. For instilling values in me, understanding. And that I made it. And I also broke the chain of that teenage pregnancy cycle, because my grandmother was a teenage parent, my mom was a teenage, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And so I broke that. So just thank you for believing in me, putting values in me, and then just telling my story of how I grew up. When you come out of poverty, people don't expect you to make it. I'm not rich or anything like that, but I'm rich in, like you say, purpose. I'm rich in love. I'm rich in family. We have a really tight family.
So good.
And so, it would be more about thank you, but telling my story of how I got to that.
Man, I'm trying to hold back some tears. I'm an emotional guy. I love absolutely hearing that. You said it though. You said I made it in spite of. I think that's a future New York Times bestseller. So Miss Ericka, I want you to actually write that down because you're doing this on a day-to-day basis where like you're living and engaging with these young folks in your community, and you're having these conversations. You're serving them. And it's one thing that to do it too, but it's another thing to write it down because like we need like literally 100 of you doing that. And so one way to do that is actually putting it on paper. So I just want to say thank you for serving. You don't have to do the work that you're doing. Thank you for being submissive to God's will over your life, to being resilient. So I made it in spite of. I'm looking forward to reading that book. I appreciate you chopping it up with me.
No problem. Thank you.
I probably bet that most of you all don't know that I am a rapper. One of the best ways that we can have a positive influence on somebody's dreams, their calling in their career is through our communication, which is why I rap. You should check out my album PDL Work, which is produced exclusively by Dilly Got It Bumpin'. You can check it out everywhere where music is streaming. It's full of bangers and bars. Check it out.
Me and my rest, hustle culture been feeding me stress, family neglected. My purpose don't come from the work, they give me a check, but that ain't my worth. Foot on his neck, I'm coming in high, I'm coming in quick, got what I got, I'm so content. He calling me big, running up chicks. Running up, loving that flex. Been on that marathon nail. I run at my pace, they loving the spread. Foot on his neck.